Mercury is in retrograde from May 10th to June 2nd, 2022. What does this mean? In simple terms, it means that Mercury is traveling backwards from its normal path. Now, in reality, this isn't possible. So, why do we say Mercury is in retrograde? Well, because Mercury is closer to the Sun than the Earth is, it has a shorter orbit time, 88 days compared to Earth's 365 days. In other words, Mercury whizzes by Earth several times in our year. But, like the story of the tortoise and the hare, at some point, Earth, in her steady circle, will catch up to and then pass Mercury. When Earth passes Mercury, it appears that Mercury is moving backwards. And this is what we refer to as Mercury retrograde. And it happens 3 to 4 times each year. In astrology, Mercury rules communication, coordination, travel, commerce, and finances. So when Mercury is in retrograde, we tend to experience communication snafus, and things just tend to not go well in these areas. Oftentimes, we tend to expect awful things to start happening as soon as Mercury goes retrograde, or when we start experiencing these things, we wonder if Mercury has gone retrograde. Instead, we should look at this period as a gift. In modern society, we tend to go full steam ahead with plans and projects. That's not a bad thing per se, but sometimes we forget to sit back and take stock of what we have going on and what we need to accomplish. Mercury retrograde is the perfect time for this. We can't really stop everything for several weeks, 3 times per year, but we can take these weeks to slow down and think about what we are doing. When we do so, we are being mindful in all that we do. Instead of expecting bad things to happen and accepting that you will have a bad attitude about it, plan to use this time to look inward and take stock of what's going on with you and how you interact with the universe. Make plans, but don't make final decisions until Mercury is direct again. If you plan to travel, double and even triple check your travel plans prior to heading out. And be sure to have a backup plan. And here I want to tell you about a story about me traveling during Mercury retrograde. I take a trip every year around Memorial Day with my sorority sisters from college, and it's always Mercury retrograde at this time. It just always falls that we're in Mercury retrograde. So last year in 2021, I went on the trip, and I'm in Pennsylvania and they're all in North Carolina, and we're traveling to a destination in North Carolina. Well, I'm driving to meet up with one of them before we go to our final destination. Have a great trip, get down there, we go to our destination, we have our weekend, and then I'm coming home. We leave where we've been at, we get to her house, I get my stuff back into my car, and I'm heading home. Now, I have another approximately 8 hours to go before I get home. So, I leave her house, and I'm about 2 to 3 hours into my trip, and my car broke down. Go figure. Of course it did, it was Mercury retrograde. So, it was a Monday afternoon, late, about 5 o'clock on Memorial Day itself. So, nothing was open, of course not. So, I had to get a tow truck, find a hotel to stay in, wait till the next day until the dealership could fix my car, and it was a huge nightmare. So, I'm not saying don't travel during Mercury retrograde because I do it pretty much every year, but just be mindful that things can happen and be prepared for them when they do so that you're not caught off guard. So that's just my little PSA personal story of a traveling issue during Mercury retrograde. So be sure to have backup plans if you're going to be doing any kind of traveling or whatever. And when things go wrong, because let's face it, it happens during Mercury retrograde. It does. Take a deep breath and ask what you need to learn from the experience. Don't just get upset and flustered, although that's pretty easy to do, and I will admit I did that. But ask what you need to learn from that experience, what the universe is trying to tell you, what lesson you need to learn. And then maybe the next Mercury retrograde, you won't have to learn that same lesson again. That's a good thing too. So, like everything else in life, Mercury retrograde is what you make of it. If you expect all bad things and a bad attitude, that's exactly what you're going to get. But instead, if you expect to learn some lessons about yourself, you most certainly will. So just keep a positive attitude about it. Know that things can go wrong, but don't look at it as a bad experience. Expect that things are going to happen, but look at it as a way to learn and take stock of what's going on in your life. And if you just take an overall approach of slowing down during the weeks of Mercury retrograde, then things, when they do go off the wire, may not affect you as much as if you were plowing through full steam ahead.